Hey guys, and welcome back to our very first session of the day. Now, I am so ridiculously excited about this session because, who isn't obsessed with Frank Body? Don't even look in my pantry. Sorry, my bathroom cupboard at home. It's not in my pantry, but it could possibly be. Yes, this session is with Isabelle Banas from Frank Body. And just before we get into the Q&A, I'd love to give you a little bit of a bio and background because Isabelle has done so much awesome stuff. So Isabelle actually went to Monash University right here in Melbourne and studied marketing and economics whilst interning with Brush Band, who was a fashion retail company for Guess Jeans, Gap, Aldo and Tumi. And after a couple of years after landing her first marketing jobs, she realised her interest was in digital advertising, which at the time was being outsourced for the company she worked for. Although TV and print advertising was still heavily relied on back then, she noticed the ever-growing effectiveness and efficiency of digital channels and really wanted to upskill in that specialty. Isabelle then proceeded to complete a postgraduate diploma in digital marketing at the Chartered Institute of Marketing, where she picked up the technical hands-on skills that she needed to fulfill her job. This week, after the week of completing her studies, she began her digital marketing career, working for an agency, managing SEM and SEO campaigns for a range of companies from varying industries. Fast forward to 2020, she is now the digital marketing manager of one of the largest skincare brands in Australia, Frank Body. Her remit includes managing a range of channels such as organic and paid social, Google search, shopping ads, organic content and display ads. And wow, what an incredible job. So Isabelle, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to CareerCon.
Hi, Kara. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. What a way to start day one. We are so pumped here in the office to hear all of the little bits and pieces that you have to do with your job. But before we sort of get there, I'd love for you to take us back. Take us back to Isabelle when you were in high school. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up and how that kind of got you on the path to where you are now.
Cool. So to be honest, when I was in high school, my priority definitely wasn't getting good grades or anything like that at the start. Just like any teenage girl, I was all about, the popularity contest. I was more concerned about my social life than my grades. Sometimes skipped a few classes and stuff like that. I wasn't really into school until about year 10, year 11, the penny kind of dropped. I was realizing I was coming to the end of my schooling and I was like, okay, what do I want to do after? So I quickly realized I loved marketing. So I was like, okay, what do I need to do to get this, a job in marketing? And then figuring out what kind of ATAR score I needed, etc. So then I was like, okay, I need to pull up my socks and I need to study a little bit harder. So I went from not caring about school to becoming a complete square. I was obsessed with just acing every class and just to get to the to the end with the best score I could get to the university I wanted to get to.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's interesting to hear you say that you early on that you recognized that you were interested in marketing because, from our experience, we deal with so many students that are, kind of navigating this time at the moment. And there are so many of them that actually have no idea what it is that they want to get into. So we're going to explain a little bit about that later, Isabelle. But can you just take us now to uni and maybe just explain a little bit about your time at Monash? And then, maybe even sort of, explain a little bit about, current university, if you think that students need to go to further education to do what you do.
That's a great question. Although I really loved marketing and I knew I wanted to, sell, but I didn't really actually, when I was at uni, really know that I wanted to digital marketing. I probably didn't even know what that was or if that was a specific specialty back then. And to be honest, if you asked me back then, what kind of job do you want straight after uni, I wouldn't be able to tell you. So I knew I enjoyed the field. I enjoyed what I was studying. So I didn't really have my cards in a row in that sense, where I knew specifically what I wanted to do. After I graduated and I got my first job out of uni, then like a couple of years after that, that's when I actually realized. So it wasn't for a couple of years until after I graduated where I was like, look, I've been in this career for a couple of years now. I understand a little bit more hands-on, and the different jobs that pertain to marketing. So I was able to then discern that, hey, I actually am interested in digital marketing. And to answer your question about whether you need to do further studies or stuff like that, does university equip you for everything that you need for your job? Well, for digital marketing, I'll have to say no, unless because I remember at Monash, there was only, at the time, I don't know that now, there was only one elective that was called e-marketing, and I didn't select it, so it was optional. So, and probably was very foundational in the idea of digital marketing, but throughout my time at Monash, it was primarily focused on the principles of marketing that you can carry to any kind of marketing job out there. It doesn't have to be specific to digital. So that foundation, I guess, that you learn at university, I think it's very important for any job in marketing. But when it comes to technical kind of hands-on stuff, you either learn that on the job, get further studies, or a mixture.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome, because you're sort of, leading in perfectly to our next question, and you've kind of explained it a little bit in that answer then. But I mean, one of the big sort of themes that we're trying to, unpack and really sort of take a deep dive into over the last, over yesterday and today, is this whole thing about skills. Because, we know that there's, even people that are in, current university subjects or school, people that actually aren't even in school at the moment, we know that they're sort of at a stage in their lives where they're kind of like, oh, what's next? Like, what do I do next? And I think it's important to note also that you build up all these skills during your career, and we like to call them transferable skills, but it's just things that you pick up that you may not even know are actually something that you can use in your career. So can you kind of explain skills you think that students need for a career in digital marketing? And then, we ask this to everyone, but I'd love to know what you think your top skill is.
Oh, okay. I'll maybe have a think about that last question. But in terms of transferable skills, I think it's really important. I kind of touched on it before, to really get those foundational marketing kind of principles and learn that, like in university, or there's definitely people that can learn it on the job, but really wrap your head around that. And I think that's very important for any marketing job. Things like understanding consumer behavior, what drives people to buy, and messages and signals and stuff like that people look at before they trust a brand, what drives them to want to buy, etc. And really understanding where they are cognitively before they make a decision, etc. Understanding their needs. I think that's a very important skill to have, and you can, basically get a job anywhere in marketing. It doesn't have to be digital specifically, but it's important for digital marketing. Another transferable skill that's quite important, I would imagine, is someone that loves data and uses data to really drive their decision making. So in university, I was actually we'll take it back to high school. I didn't love maths, but was good at it. So I did, maths methods. I know what it's called in other states, but it's like a high level maths unit. So, and then in university, I selected to do econometrics as my major, which is very business modeling focused and stuff like that. And I think that was another good decision that really helped me get on the right foot to digital marketing, because it's very, as much as it looks like very exciting and pretty and ads, etc., it's very data driven. You have to understand, what makes a good ad, what kind of objectives are going to like tell, or metrics are going to tell you whether or not your advertising campaign's doing well, etc., etc. So you have to be very like driven by data. It's sometimes you are driven by a hunch because you understand consumer behavior, but a lot of the time you have to let the data dictate exactly whether it worked well or what your next steps are. So I would say that is a foundational skill that you can pick up, I guess, on the job or in university, and I think it's really important for digital marketing.
Isabelle, I loved that you touched on data then, because I think the preconception is at a high school level that sometimes, marketing subjects, PR subjects are the subjects that, you go to if you're good at English and if you're good at media. And, I think that it's important to sort of realise that, even data and math skills and being able to critically analyse things is something that you use probably even daily. Would that be correct in saying that you use it daily in your job?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not doing trigonometry every day, but you need to have
trigonometry.
I mean, I don't actually like in my head work out things. I use a calculator for probably the simplest of equations, but you definitely do need that level of maths in a digital marketing role, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. No, thank you for explaining that. I think, we have, I've been around for, probably a little bit longer than yourself, but I remember the very first day that my mum ordered some Frank Body. I was living with her, and I remember the old school container that it came in. It was like a brown Ziploc bag, and you know what? Like I'm pretty sure that she's watching. I think she still has it in her cupboard because she's like one of these big beauty hoarders. But the brand has just evolved into such a, it's almost like Kellogg's, Frank Body. Like everyone kind of knows what it is. Can you kind of explain what it is that you do in your day-to-day job, just to sort of give us an insight as to how, your 9 to 5 kind of works?
My 9 to 5, it kind of varies on the day. There's a lot of reporting, which is not very glamorous, but it is fun to plan, campaigns that are coming up and new products that we're launching. Those are probably my favorite things to do. Briefing in like what kind of creative and messaging we're going to be including in the campaign, doing research to find out what consumers are looking for in a product, things that they're searching for when it comes to skincare, and really taking those learnings and like applying it to our campaigns that we are going to run in the future. So like a lot of that, a lot of planning, a lot of reporting, and execution as well, and briefing the teams just to get across the next steps, and of course optimizing, so current campaigns that are running, having a look at them every single day, making sure we're on track, hitting our targets. If not, what do we do, and making those adjustments.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, the industry that you work within too can sometimes be a little bit unpredictable, I'm guessing, like with your, when you analyze your data, and is there some tricky days in your job? Do you find some days, like what are the hardest things that you've kind of come across, and can you give us an example of one of those?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think like working towards like deadlines is very crucial, but also when there's several departments, let's say, that have certain deadlines and they cross over, it gets quite stressful, and trying to deliver everything on time is, I would say, not just for me, but a lot of people in our marketing department feel the same. And yeah, the stress factor to deliver on time. And I personally, I hate the idea of, letting people down and being a blocker to getting things moving. So I put that pressure on myself as well, to make sure everything gets done on time. And I would say that's probably the unglamorous part of the job, or the not fun part, I guess you could call it. But I don't know, I guess I get to work with a fabulous team and everyone's really understanding. Sometimes there's opportunity to push out deadlines, which is great, but I know that's not always possible. And in some situations for us, that's not always possible either. So, so I would say that's quite stressful at times, but it's okay.
Oh, I can imagine. Do you in your job? I know that we've had a discussion about this in the past, but Frank are actually in multiple companies, multiple areas around the world at the moment. And is your head office in Melbourne? Do you actually direct a lot of the individual countries, or do they sort of look after their own kind of agenda?
Yeah, good question. We have head office in Melbourne, where I work from. And we have an office in New York. So the team in New York primarily, they solely look after everything in the US. However, the team in Melbourne, most of us are global team members. So myself, my role is global. So I don't just focus on Australia, even though I'm based here. I have to focus on all our regions. So to answer your question, we're, growing throughout the world, and I have to make sure I bring the messaging and bring the kind of, wherever that consumer is at for that particular region when we enter into that new region, just realizing that she might not be familiar with Frank as a normal Australian girl would. So it'd be a lot of introductory kind of very coffee scrub focused messaging in those regions, as opposed to here, where we kind of educate her on, the various types of skincare categories that we have at Frank. So it's a little bit different, the messaging, because everyone's quite familiar with Frank.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And I guess you're right. I guess in establishing kind of markets, you probably need to think differently than how you do here in Australia. And maybe products different, and a whole gamut of things you need to take into consideration. So thanks for explaining that, Isabelle. And I think another kind of misconception that we sort of see regularly is the kind of distinction between, digital marketing and social media, and how they kind of, what's what. Can you explain a little bit about, the differences, and do you work closely with your social media teams?
To answer your first question, digital marketing is very, very broad, and I would agree with you that from one job it might look completely different to someone who has my title in another job, and they look after completely different things. So it is very ambiguous. There's someone that purely looks after running the e-com shop, someone that looks purely after email, or it varies very much in the digital marketing space. At the end of the day, it's digital and it's marketing, and that could pertain to most things. So I do look after the strategy for organic social. So it's quite important to really understand what we're doing organically and in paid, and just making sure that our campaigns and our messaging are all integrated, which is the strongest kind of message, when we're singing the same song across all our channels, and no matter which touch point she sees, she's seeing that message. So I'm not doing the posting, and I don't come up with the fantastic memes, but in terms of direction and content, that's what I look after.
Oh, awesome. Fantastic. Well, we have our chat box and our Q&A box has lit up. So, Isabelle, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions from the audience. Get ready. There's a lot of them. So I'm going to hit you up with the first one, which is from Zoe. And Zoe said, how do you think digital marketing has changed in the last 3 to 5 years? Okay, I'm just quickly doing my math in my head. Okay. So 5 years ago, what was I doing? It's changed a lot, actually. Things like GDPR has come into place in the last 5 years. Each platform has changed drastically in what you're able to do, who you're able to target. The different ad formats have changed. I would say
consumers are spending probably more time on, especially this year, on like platforms like Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. Those emerging platforms that you definitely have to consider. And in the next 5 years, there might be another TikTok or another emerging platform that comes introduces itself. So it's rapidly changing, to answer your question, Zoe. I guess my job, though, and what I do day to day hasn't drastically changed probably in the last 5 years. Like, you're still doing the same, things, but I guess what's available to you and what kind of tools you can use as a digital marketer has changed in the last 5 years, and the rules as well.
Yeah, wow. And, just on Zoe's question, just to sort of, this is probably for my own knowledge, Zoe, a bit of, I'm sorry, Isabelle, just a little sneaky peek, but when a new platform emerges, so when TikTok emerges, does a brand like yourself, do you sort of, analyze whether you think it's worthy to be a part of it, or do you sort of just jump right in to be a bit of a trailblazer? Like, how does that kind of work within your teams?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think you have to think about first your audience, first and foremost, pretty much everything. And is your target consumer on that platform? Are they using that channel? If they are, then get in as soon as you can. And the reason why I say that is because typically, for an advertising perspective, generally costs are quite low at the start when a new platform launches, and you want to capitalize on that cheap cost while you can, and you also want to capitalize on the how little competition you have. So most likely there isn't other players advertising on TikTok straight away, and you want to be one of the first on there, and get your presence out there. So first and foremost, think about your audience, and second of all, get in as soon as you can, and really obviously also plan the kind of content that you want to roll out on that platform, because it might not be like a copy paste kind of solution. You might have to tailor it specifically for that platform.
Oh, that is such a great answer. Thanks for that, for Isabelle. So it's, knowing your audience and then jumping on straight away. I'll have to remember that. So the next question comes from Geordie, and she or he, I think it's a she, she's actually asked, does Frank Body offer internships? What do you look for in candidates? So much love, Frank Body.
Great. To answer your question, yes, we do. And we have such amazing interns that come through Frank Body, and they're such a joy to work with. We get people who reach out to us via Instagram or on LinkedIn or whatever, or sometimes just email us with their CV, etc. If we're a particular person that looks after whatever area they want experience in, needs some help, then we definitely interview and recruit. So and internships can go as long or short as you like. And so if you want an internship at Frank, just reach out, let us know what you want experience in, and we'll see if we have the capacity. Maybe we already have an intern in that position, but if you're happy to wait, we can definitely call you in for after that internship finishes.
Oh, that's awesome. And you're based in Melbourne, are you? Is that where you that's where you're based? Yeah. Just say if you're a girl that's watching, from Queensland at the moment, that potentially, would love to get involved in helping spread the Frank news, maybe as an influencer, or, are there ways that other people in other states can get involved as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially now that we're in lockdown and we're not physically at the office, I think now is the best time, because any brand is, every brand working from home. So it doesn't matter if you're in Melbourne or Queensland or wherever. So I wouldn't let that be a barrier. And I think now's your opportunity, because, the world is your oyster in a digital world. So take that opportunity now, before everyone goes back to the office.
Exactly. Yes. Oh, wow. I 100% agree. So our next question has come from Anonymous, and it's, does Frank Body employ graduates? How can I apply? How can I apply for work experience? You've already kind of mentioned that, but would you hire, within your teams somebody that doesn't have, that tertiary education or that qualification?
Yeah. Good question. First of all, Frank Body is quite a small team, so it's not very often we hire graduates or anyone else for that matter. But to answer that question, yes, we have before. So, however, I strongly recommend interning where you want to potentially work as a grad. And I say that because I can think of 4 people at Frank Body who have started from interning to a junior grad role, etc., and that has been really a common theme for quite a few people at Frank. So I would say your first step would be to intern at Frank or any other skincare brand or beauty brand, if possible, and then make yourself needed, and then see what happens from there.
Oh, that's awesome. Great. It's funny, isn't it, that you kind of, from the outset looking in, sometimes you think that a certain company is just huge. So it's kind of humbling to hear that you guys are, a really smart, sharp, kind of, fast working team. So thanks for explaining that. It's very interesting to hear. Another question is regarding who designs the ads? So I'm assuming it's the Frank Body ads. I'm studying graphic design at Melbourne and would love to do design for brands' social media.
Cool. I will do my best to answer this because I'm not a graphic designer. But I'll start from the top, I guess, in terms of like the flow of work. So we have an art director, and she kind of directs the theme, the look of a shoot. So that kind of like guides how the assets turn out after they're touched up, and it like gives the feel for the campaigns, whether that be at the beach or in the bathroom or whatever. Like she concepts that kind of thing. And then we've got designers. So we've got an amazing girl who looks after all our packaging, and anything design and graphic-y, she designs it, and she's amazing, and she's a really fast worker. And then we've got someone that I work very close with. He basically puts the ads together for me. So, and he is a perfectionist, and I bloody love working with him. So I'm a perfectionist as well, so it's so good working with him. Yeah, he puts the ads together, whether that be an image, and uses like the images from the shoot, iconography from the designer, and then puts it all together and brings it to life, whether that be video, image, Giphy, whatever it is that we use for ads or for organic social.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we've got a question that I'd love to sort of throw at you, actually. It's probably not that much in regards to your career, but it's something that's kind of really interesting, and that's the whole kind of, we are in lockdown. Most states aren't in lockdown, but here in Melbourne we are in lockdown, and even during COVID and people being at home, working from a home, has your category, so skincare or even Frank, grown during this period? In terms of, brand awareness or sales or anything that you want to attribute it to?
Yeah, we're actually quite lucky that our brand has kind of had a really good run during COVID, and we're very aware that it's not common, and there's a lot of brands that have been struggling, and we sympathise with that. But we're very lucky, like I said, that we've had an increase in sales. So, and that's, you could say it's quite obvious because you can think about how everyone shifted to focusing on skincare and self-care as soon as lockdown kicked in. So, off the back of that, more people have been like buying our masks and stuff like that, which is great, and falling in love with the brand, which is good. So, yeah, we're very, like I said, very lucky in that sense.
Yeah, no, that's awesome to know, because I think too it just shows, a resilience of a brand being able to adapt and, move in current changes, and also, knowing how to respond to your consumer and actually know what they want. So, I think that's awesome, and congratulations on that. I think that's fantastic. We're kind of, nearing the end of our talk this morning, Isabelle, which is such a shame, because I feel like we could just sort of, unpack so many different, things in regards to your career and campaigns and, talking more about data. But anyway, the last question that I would love to ask you is in regards to, giving advice to yourself. So, think back to, yourself at high school, or maybe even your first year at uni, and, what's one bit of advice that you wish that you could have given Isabelle at the time?
First and foremost, I would definitely say to back yourself. There's definitely been moments in my career where I've had self-doubt, and it cripples me and stops me from taking a risk and, taking that next step that I really want to take. And I might, have those voices inside that say, oh, you're not ready, or you're not good enough, or so-and-so is better. So back yourself. And that's definitely one. Second of all, don't compare yourself to anyone else. You're doing your own, you're on your own journey, your own path. Someone else might be, really blessed and really smart and, excel a lot quicker than you. That's fine. You're on your own journey. And I wouldn't compare yourself to anyone else. Who's to say that you have better skills elsewhere than this person, or et cetera, et cetera. So that's another thing. And if you do find that you're lacking in a particular skill, that you identify that I'm not that good at X, Y, Z, and I'd like to be better at it, practice, upskill yourself, take that time. So at the end of the day, like, it's your career, you need to take those steps to really upskill and wherever you want to like close that gap. So and that's what I did. Like for digital marketing, I was like, I want to do this, but I don't know anything about it. So that's why I did my postgrad. So yeah, I encourage you to upskill yourself where you can. Take those, courses, short courses and stuff like that to really close that gap in those knowledge areas. And for digital marketing especially, I have to call out to a platform that I recommend that you have a look at. So when I was starting off in digital marketing, this platform has changed its name 10 million times. I have to double check what it's called. It's called Skillshop by Google. So it's basically a platform where you can watch videos, read content, and learn how to use Google's platform yourself. There's some great videos as well that you can watch on YouTube. I basically self-taught myself how to use Google Ads and stuff like that. So using these resources, they're there. They're ready to go. Just have to put the time aside to actually invest in yourself. So check it out. So I'll just read out the URL again. It's skillshop.withgoogle.com. Check it out.
Wow, that's all. And, we will, don't worry about it, guys. We will actually send the link out. We'll grab the link from Isabelle and we'll send it out to everyone as well. Because, upskilling yourself, and, Isabelle's just said that she self-taught herself. So, I mean, if... I think that that's a great opportunity. And I love what she actually said about, finding the areas that you kind of are lacking and upskilling in those and doing short courses and things. So, Isabelle, that was like the most brilliant way to start CareerCon. Thank you so much for joining us. Can anyone reach out to you if they are interested, or how can they kind of keep in touch if they have any other questions?
Yeah, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. So my name's Isabelle Banas, find me. And you can send me a message and ask me any question you want. Happy to help.
Oh, unreal. Thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day. You've got a whole weekend ahead of you now, and thank you for being a part of CareerCon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.